Hello there everyone and welcome, it is Niran here, and today it's time for round number 18 of our Renault career mode here on F1 2016 at Austin today. Circuit of the Americas for round number 18 of this Formula 1 season, and there's not really much to play for in terms of the Drivers' Championship. Obviously Sebastian Vettel won that last time out in that crazy Japanese Grand Prix. It was a mental race for us as well. Go and check it out if you want to, because it was an absolutely insane. If you haven't seen it, make sure to go and check the race out because it was absolutely insane. But of course our car is a lot better at this point in the season. R&D has been seized, but it hasn't stopped other teams going out and improving their cars as well. Red Bull, Mercedes and Haas, I think, all bringing updates or upgrades to this event, so there's a hell of a lot of teams that have got a lot better going into this Grand Prix, and understandably Haas improving their car going into their home Grand Prix. That's very understandable, and they've been lacking a lot this season, especially in the second half of it. Moving on into practice though, and it was a very wet practice session, intermediate conditions for the start of FP1 as we get into the practice acclimatization. Austin really is a track that I do quite like, to be honest with you. Going into Japan I wasn't really expecting too much because it's not really a track that I get on with, but going into this one I was actually expecting quite a lot. In our first track acclimatization lap we actually did a pretty decent job of getting the green score and taking it pretty tentatively, right, even. Is that even a word? Tentatively. That's the one. Around the final two corners down the second lap of our track acclimatization, and we get the purple score and hence 50 resource points. And it actually dried up. You could actually tell the difference between the track conditions on those two laps. It actually dried up towards the end of the session, so we went back out on the super softs and did the qualifying pace practice program, and we managed to smash that as well, getting 50 resource points at the first possible opportunity, thereby going 6/10 faster than the green score. You can see the resource points there we earned in the background, a decent chunk as well. Got 20 in terms of team objectives as well, which is always nice in a practice session, and now we're on to 875, and given we've seized R&D, that means we'll get a bonus going into next season of 25%. Our qualifying goals though going into the Saturday session is to qualify 8th or higher, beat our rival Kimi Räikkönen, and of course beat our teammate, as always, Kevin Magnussen the Dane. We haven't had too much issues in terms of doing the third of those objectives, but we might struggle in terms of beating Kimi Räikkönen, maybe struggle in getting 8th position on the grid as well. We'll see how we do though in the qualifying report. Fans at the Circuit of the Americas were treated to a brilliant qualifying session under sunny skies that saw Sebastian Vettel go fastest in Q1. Home favourites Haas endured a torrid afternoon however, as Romain Grosjean and Esteban Gutierrez both went out despite bringing upgrades to this Grand Prix. Q2 saw Nico Rosberg go fastest for Mercedes on super softs, but the main talking points surrounded those on the soft compound. Kimi Räikkönen, Daniel Ricciardo and Yusufu all made it through to the shootout on the slower compound, putting them in a great position for the race. However, Max Verstappen was eliminated in 13th trying the same strategy, and Toro Rosso suffered a dip in form, as neither car made it into Q3. It would be the newly crowned 2016 champion Sebastian Vettel who took pole in the end though, beating Lewis Hamilton by a tenth of a second. Nico Rosberg struggled to a lowly 7th ahead of Fernando Alonso, who seemed impressed with McLaren's current pace. So Sebastian Vettel will start the Grand Prix at the Circuit of the Americas on pole, with Lewis Hamilton alongside him on row number 1. Then it's Räikkönen and Yusufu on row 2 ahead of Ricciardo and Massa. Rosberg struggled to 7th alongside Alonso, with Magnussen, Bottas, Sainz and Perez rounding out the top 12 for the Grand Prix in Austin. So we thought we might struggle when it came to qualifying in terms of beating 8th as our objective on the grid, and well, we didn't, is the simple fact of the matter. 4th on the grid, our best qualifying position, I do believe, of the season, and we have got a fantastic chance to do well in this Grand Prix, and Austin is a track that we've done well at, in the past. In previous career modes, in previous series, Austin has been a track that we've done very, very well in. We grabbed pole back in Williams Road to Recovery on F1 2013. I do believe we won here or came second or something like that in the Ultimate Driver on F1 2014. It is a track that suits us very well, so going into this one, starting 4th on the grid, I'm very confident. Sebastian Vettel as well, starting 1st on the grid, fresh off the back of winning the entire Drivers' Championship, he sticks it on pole as well. We though will be slightly nervous sitting on the grid there in the Renault in our best qualifying position, knowing that we are under pressure not to mess this up, but starting the formation lap, and we are in the knowledge that there is rain in the air. It's very sunny at the moment, but we don't know when the rain is going to come. The radars, the Renault radars on the pit wall are suggesting there will be some rain at some point, but who even knows when it's going to be, which of course adds even more spice to the mix in a race that we almost want to be straightforward. We want to do well, we want it to be a normal race. That certainly isn't going to be the situation. We line up then 4th on the grid, ready to start the American Grand Prix at the Circuit of the Americas. The 5 lights are now on for the Austin Grand Prix, round number 18. We are underway here in this 2016 season. It's an okay start, a beautiful start though from Kimi Räikkönen on the soft tyres as we go down into turn 1. Lewis Hamilton on the inside, Vettel on the outside, Räikkönen in the middle. Felipe Massa comes out of nowhere, pushes us out wide. Vettel gets hung out to dry as well. Nico Rosberg from 7th on the grid is up into P4. Sergio Perez is out of the race. He has been claimed as a victim on lap number 1, on turn number 1 of this Grand Prix, and it's all very, very hectic. Getting out wide there after getting caught in the dirty air of Nico Rosberg, who's had a fantastic start. Generally, it's a fantastic start for Mercedes as Hamilton takes the lead from 2nd on the grid, but Vettel is down to 7th position from pole position. Fernando Alonso's got ahead of him as well on those super soft tyres. Of course, as we mentioned in the qualifying report, we are starting on the softs. It's a strategic advantage, which may mean we have to pit one less time than everyone else if it's a straightforward dry race. We'll have to wait and see if that's the case. Kimi Räikkönen's done the same. He's up in P2, and we're hoping to join him up on the podium as we breeze past Nico Rosberg in a straight line and might try and complete a double overtake down at the end of the back straight up the inside of the Williams. Felipe Massa is dispatched as well, and despite being on the slower tyres, we are certainly not slower in a straight line and past both Mercedes-powered cars there. Nico Rosberg and Felipe Massa in one go. One person who's not around at the moment is Daniel Ricciardo, and he had a pretty good qualifying in P5, and this is what happened. He got a hip and shoulder from Kevin Magnussen and then got spun round from behind as well. He wasn't actually involved in the Perez accident. We'll have to wait and see what happened to the Mexican driver in the Force India, but that's what happened to Ricciardo, getting hung out to dry and then getting spun around. This is what it looked like from Daniel Kvyat, and that is Jenson Button in the McLaren spinning round Ricciardo, and then Kvyat and Button get mugged round the outside there by Verstappen, and I think it was Hülkenberg. This is what happened to Sergio Perez, that when he gets clobbered on the left-hand side by Max Verstappen and ends up with his left front getting ripped off by the Dutchman as he's driving by. This is another angle of it. Yeah, the front left just gets in connection with Max Verstappen's right rear, and it rips the front wheel off Sergio Perez's car. And Paul Carlos Sainz as well gets involved in the accident, and he ends up an innocent bystander off in the grass, caught up in the accident. On to lap 2 then, we're not in the DRS, sorry, we're in the slipstream of Kimi Räikkönen, only lap 2, so DRS has not been enabled, and bearing up to the back end of the Ferrari and breezing past it in a straight line. We're up into P2, ladies and gentlemen, after a pretty poor start, to be quite honest with you, bogging down a little bit in comparison to some of the cars around us. We're up into P2 and mixing it not only with some big cars or some big names on this grid, but also big names who are on better tyres than us. We're actually stretching away from Nico Rosberg and Felipe Massa, who are on the super softs, in comparison to our softs, and they seem to be working very well for both myself and Kimi Räikkönen up to their operating temperature as we go through sector 1. We can't go through it side by side with Kimi Räikkönen, so we have to duck out of the move in the end, and Räikkönen completes a very good move after he made a mistake there through turn 1, going around the outside of us through that right-hander, this sort of Beckett's and Maggots style complex section like they have at Silverstone, but with a lot more runoff area obviously and a lot longer. It's very difficult to go side by side through there, as we just proved, and Kimi Räikkönen gets the better of us in the end. But of course, to our advantage, we've got a massive long straight, and it's lap number 3, but DRS has now been enabled, so we're going to use that to our advantage as well. Ducking into the slipstream now, Kimi Räikkönen, the Iceman in the Ferrari, bearing up to the back end of him again like we did on lap 2, this time with the assistance of DRS, and through we go up into P2 again. Small lock up there on the inside front, but we do get the job done. Nico Rosberg sitting and watching on from a safe distance in P4 as he watches two drivers on soft tyres get the better of him on the super softs. Lewis Hamilton of course is driving off into the distance, but at the moment it's looking like he's going to have to do an extra pit stop in comparison to us, so we don't particularly have to worry about him too much unless he gains a lead of like 25 seconds. Nico Rosberg meanwhile has just passed Kimi Räikkönen there down at the end of the back straight. Another man on the move is Max Verstappen at the moment. Started P13 after trying to go on the softs, trying to do the strategy that we did. It wasn't successful for him, so he ended up outside of the top 10. He's starting on the mediums and is the only driver on those, so interesting strategy from him, and he's making his way through the order very nicely. But we've lost the back end coming through the penultimate corner very badly indeed. Now down to the final corner, Nico Rosberg's hit us around the outside, and he's lost the position now to Kimi Räikkönen, which is not ideal for him. Back on board we go with us, and Lewis Lewis Hamilton's in the pit lane, taking those super softs off and putting on a set of, I imagine, the softs, or probably the mediums maybe, I'm not entirely sure. Definitely won't be another set of super softs. In fact, it is another set of super softs. An absolute nightmare for Lewis Hamilton. Why he's going on to that strategy, I don't know. Because you have to pit a ridiculous amount of times, because those super softs just don't go the distance. They don't go long enough. And even worse for him, just to compound his miseries, rubbing salt in the already present wounds, he's been dealt ridiculous traffic as he's come out of the pit lane. He's got Daniel Kvyat and Marcus Ericsson, the Sauber, right in front of him, which is going to stall his progress. On to lap 8, and Rosberg and Massa have come into the pit lane, as has Sebastian Vettel. All the guys that started on the super softs are now into the pit lane. But we've got bigger issues to worry about, because we made a mistake going onto the back straight, and Kimi Raikkonen, who already had the DRS, is going to make pretty swift work of us down towards this hairpin at the end of the back straight, going back into the slipstream, thinking of a move up the inside, but we decide against it on the Ferrari driver, and through he goes up into the lead. His tyres appear to be in better condition, as he has a much more pace than us in this stint, or at this point of the stint, sorry. A big pace advantage over us, and on to lap 10, a few laps later, he's extended a lead of about 2 seconds over us. He comes into the pit lane onto lap 10, and we come in as well, not allowing him to get the undercut, but coming in a lap earlier than this would have been a bit of a stretch on the second stint. So we do come in on lap 10 at the same time as Kimi Raikkonen, who at this point is probably the favourite for winning the race, to be quite honest with you, because we're going to be, I'd have thought, pitting one less time than everyone else. So the likes of Vettel, Hamilton certainly, the likes of Rosberg and Massa as well, who started on the super softs, will be pitting one less time than those guys, myself and Raikkonen. So we're really in the pound seat at the moment in terms of strategy in this race, as far as things are concerned at the moment. Coming out of the pit lane there in P8, just ahead of Esteban Gutierrez, who is yet to pit there on those soft tyres. Meanwhile, coming into turn 1, we're on board with Felipe Massa, who's also gone into another set of the super soft tyres. That's Hülkenberg coming out of the pit lane. That's Felipe Nasr going up the inside, giving him the hip and shoulder, and Felipe Massa spins into the wall after making contact with his almost namesake Felipe Nasr in the Sauber. It was Hülkenberg coming out of the pit lane. Massa just went too deep into the corner, and himself and Nasr's lines merged coming out of turn number 1, and Massa finds himself face first in the wall, lacking a front wing, and in serious trouble in this race and having to come into the pit lane. On to lap number 12 though, we've got traffic ahead of us, and a few guys that haven't yet made their pit stop as we come through the penultimate corner. We've got some issues there. Front wing everywhere. Kimi Raikkonen's been held up. We managed to take advantage of whatever the hell just happened and get past the Iceman. Kimi Raikkonen looked as if he had us in his pocket, to be quite honest with you. A 2-second gap, but there was some sort of hold up there going through the final corner. A few drivers getting held up, a few front wings going all over the place as well, getting dispatched or getting detached even from their cars. We'll have to take another look at what just happened, because there was quite a few cars in a line all going into the pit lane. Looking at this on board from Lewis Hamilton, but it's certainly helped us, because Kimi Raikkonen's ended up with an issue and it's held him up and we've been able to get through, and this is what's caused it. Jenson Button going slowly through the final few corners. Lewis Hamilton trying to get through but breaking his front wing, and he has to follow Jenson Button, his countryman, into the pit lane, and there we go, overtaking Kimi Raikkonen. I'm surprised we didn't actually get a illegal overtake message actually, because it was through a yellow flag zone, but the steward's clearly okay with it. This is what it looked like on board from Jenson Button, and rather curiously, he doesn't have a puncture, so I don't quite know why he was going that slowly. It's almost like his pit limiter was on, or whether he's got some sort of gearbox issue. I'm not entirely sure, because he appears to be stuck in second gear at the moment. So whether he was coming into the pit lane with a gearbox issue and it slowed Hamilton up. There's a Toro Rosso and a Sauber, I think, waiting behind as well, trying to get into the pit lane. But Button coming into the pits, and I'm not entirely sure what happened there, to be honest with you. Some sort of issue for Button. Hopefully it's been sorted out for him. Nevertheless, we've got some issues as well for Lewis Hamilton, who's just fresh out of the pit lane after breaking his front wing, and his engine's blown up as well. And for the multiple times this season, we've seen that Mercedes, that works Mercedes car, have an engine blowout. That's what it looked like on board from Pascal Wehrlein, who was travelling through a cloud of smoke. And out of nowhere, Lewis Hamilton is out of this Grand Prix, and out of nowhere, we've got a safety car in this Grand Prix as well. Lewis Hamilton then retiring from the race with another engine blowout this season. That's Hungary, Singapore, and here that spring to mind. Fresh off the back, of course, of crashing out in Japan after a collision with Sergio Perez, who's out of this race due to a collision as well. Now, meanwhile, Max Verstappen is in the lead of this race, because he started on the medium tyres, let's not forget, the medium tyre compound. So he hasn't pitted yet. So this safety car has worked an absolute treat for the Dutchman, because he's basically gained a free pit stop. He's coming into the pit lane now to fit on a set of super softs, and it's absolutely brilliant for him. He was out in the lead by quite a distance, and he's potentially going to come out in the lead, whereas he would have probably come out in about 6th or 7th if the safety car hadn't come out. And look at that, he comes out just ahead of us. It's literally timed to perfection for Max Verstappen. Another lap later and we probably would have still been in the lead. Kimi Räikkönen has also pitted behind us, so quite a few people taking this opportunity then to come into the pit lane. And I've noticed at this point there's a bit of cloud coverage coming over, and we go on the radio and there's light rain expected in 10 minutes time. This has changed the race completely. We've now got a situation where Max Verstappen's out in the lead. This has worked perfectly for him. Myself and Nico Hülkenberg have decided to wait it out on the mediums. Now, if there's rain coming in 10 minutes, light rain coming in 10 minutes, the intermediates phase, the intermediate tyres will maybe be required in around 17 or 18 minutes. So we're looking at about maybe 6 laps from now. Now, this is going to change things up completely because there's going to be guys on the super soft, so Max Verstappen, who hope the rain comes very quickly. The rain basically comes imminently, to the point where, they might even run out of tyre life if the rain doesn't come soon enough. So we're going to have to monitor this. We're not going to be able to keep on terms with Verstappen because he's on super softs and we're on mediums as we get back underway after the safety car. So we're just going to have to basically beg and pray that his tyres go off before the rain comes down, and he has to come in for a second for an additional pit stop before the intermediates phase. Nevertheless, Nico Rosberg is on the move behind us, and he's making a move on Nico Hülkenberg. At this point, as you'll have seen from the race director a moment ago, Max Verstappen is the only man on the super soft, so if this works out for him, he is in a magnificent position, like a ridiculously good position. On to lap 19, coming through the penultimate corner, the rain has started to fall. You can see spits of rain on the camera or on the screen at the moment, and Max Verstappen is into the pit lane. It's surely too early for intermediate, so clearly those super softs have not lasted long enough. It's a shame for him, because if he'd have put on a set of softs, this would have worked perfectly for him. He'd have been quicker than me, he'd been quicker than Räikkönen and Rosberg and everyone behind him, but he would have been able to go until the intermediate phase. And you can see onto lap 22 now that the rain is coming down a lot heavier. On board from Romain Grosjean, who's currently sat behind a McLaren Sauber, and that is a front right tyre giving way from underneath him. A puncture then for the Frenchman in the Haas. Heartbreak for the Haas team at their home Grand Prix with Grosjean sat in P12. He was literally half a second away from being in the points, and that has completely ruined his chances of getting into the top 10 today as Rio Haryanto and our teammate Kevin Magnussen go through. Through goes Jenson Button with a bit of a push and a shove on the way through, and a Williams follows suit. That's Felipe Massa, who was in the wall earlier. And big issues then for Romain Grosjean, who is as good as out of the running for points in this Grand Prix. Big shame for him at his team's home Grand Prix. But the rain is starting to come down ever heavier, and we've got a safety car again. Is that for Romain Grosjean? I think it is. So Romain Grosjean has caused the safety car by having a puncture here. And this is an interesting point for a safety car to come out, because it's not intermediate conditions yet, but surely by the time a safety car has come in, it will be intermediate conditions. So we're going to take a risk. We're going to take the punt. We're currently in a net lead of this Grand Prix at the moment. This is something I haven't even stressed at this point. Max Verstappen was in the lead, but obviously that sort of almost blunder really when it came to the tyre strategy means that he is really out of the running now. It's basically between myself, Räikkönen and Rosberg with the way the strategy has gone and the way this race has gone so far. So we're coming in for intermediate tyres. No one else has gone for this because technically at this point the track is not ready for intermediate tyres, but I'm thinking ahead. By the time the safety car has been out for 3 laps, this track is definitely going to be ready for intermediate tyres as Valtteri Bottas, Max Verstappen, who we were battling with a moment ago, and Felipe Nasr, who's having a great race for Sauber as well, go through in 6th, 7th and 8th respectively. On to the next lap, and most of the AI cars are peeling into the pit lane. Carlos Sainz though decides against it, which is almost suicidal at this point in the Grand Prix, and it looks as if he almost immediately regretted it, basically parking his car on the apex, almost wanting a second chance to come into the pit lane as the safety car rather questionably drives almost sideways across the track. And look how wet the track is now. We've played a masterstroke because we've nulled the risk of losing out in the pit lane because we had Kimi Räikkönen and Nico Rosberg right behind us. They could have jumped us in the pit lane. By coming in a lap earlier under the safety car, we've completely quashed that threat, and now we've got Rosberg and Kvyat behind us on the intermediate tyres. But suddenly this race is toing and froing. It was suddenly swung in Max Verstappen's favour with the first safety car, and his second safety car has favoured us massively. Quick thinking to come into on the intermediate tyres. We literally had about 20 seconds maybe to come up with that decision and come into the pit lane. So it was a quick decision, and it has worked out for us because currently we lead this Grand Prix here in Austin, the Circuit of the Americas. We are on course potentially for our first win. We've grabbed 3 podiums this season for Renault. But at the moment, the tension is building because at this point in the race, with just 4 laps to go once we've gone round and started resuming racing again after the safety car has come in, we could potentially win this Grand Prix. It won't be easy. We've got Nico Rosberg in the Mercedes, the almighty Mercedes behind us. And we need to get back to racing speed at some point. We're going to put the hammer down after this penultimate corner and we get underway. We lose the back end a tiny little bit, but it's still quite a decent restart. We've been the bridesmaid so many times. We've come second in Austria when it looks as if we were going to win. We've come second before as well in a different race this season. We've been on the podium, but we haven't quite grabbed a win, which would be an insane achievement in our first season and Renault's first season back in the sport. We're very tentative into turn 1. This is the first time we've run on the intermediate conditions since FP1, so it's almost a bit of a struggle trying to get our braking zones back into our heads. But at this point, onto lap 26, making a mistake again, missing our braking zone, but still, we've got so much time over Nico Rosberg. We've been able to extend a bit of a gap now over the German, and you can see on the minimap that lead is starting to stay pretty constant. That we've got the pace in these intermediate conditions, as has been the case really all season when we've been in these tricky situations. On the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix, we've got a 2.1 second lead over Nico Rosberg, and on to the final lap of this Grand Prix here in Austin, we are in position to win a Grand Prix. Can we just keep it on the island? The weather is getting ridiculous. It looks as if it's pretty much heavy rain now. There's still just about a damp line, if you like, which would indicate we're just about still in intermediate conditions, but the rain has definitely got heavier since the safety car first came out, so we're just struggling at the moment to keep it on the island. But we are just a matter of a few miles away, potentially, from winning this Grand Prix. We've extended 0.6 of a second in the course of a lap over Nico Rosberg. At this point, we were 2.1 seconds up on the penultimate lap. Now we're 2.7 seconds up. Shout out to Daniel Kvyat, who's holding on to P3 at the moment. This is a race of shock results at the moment, just being very tentative as we go on towards the back straight, trying to get a good exit in terms of traction. Daniel Kvyat will be doing the same with pressure from behind, but it's a different story for us. We don't have the pressure at all. Going past the DRS board, which is just completely irrelevant at this point in these conditions. No DRS, of course, for anyone, which is making it a lot harder for drivers to try and make overtakes. That's maybe saving Kvyat at the moment, but still, we've got enough of a gap over Nico Rosberg. We're just 1 sector away from grabbing our first win of this season for Renault, and grabbing Renault's first win since returning to the sport. It will be an emotional day if we can make it to the finish line, but we've still got a few corners to navigate, namely this long, never-ending right-hander with only 2 corners to go now, sliding around the right-hander. Just the penultimate turn to get through. We get through that pretty much unscathed, losing the back end a little bit coming out of the corner. Now around the final corner. This is about to be it. We are going to take the win here in the Circuit of the Americas. It is a monumental day for ourselves and for the team as we get out of the car in Parc Ferme. We are a race winner for the first time in 2016. We've been the bridesmaid but never the bride on 3 different occasions this season, but finally we get to step on the top step of the podium, stand on that top step and punch the air at a very damp and soggy Circuit of the Americas track after a very, very entertaining race, one that swung in different directions, left, right and centre. It looked as if it was going in the way of Kimi Raikkonen early on, and then suddenly it was in our favour, and then it was back to Max Verstappen, and then back to us, and the rain coming down. Maybe Nico Rosberg would take the win, but in the end we overcome all the obstacles, jumping over all the relative hurdles that came our way during that Grand Prix, and we do take the win. And crucially, it was down to doing 1 stop less than everyone else. Nico Rosberg doing a 3-stopper didn't work out for him in terms of winning the race. He comes second. Kvyat and Hulkenberg 3rd and 4th doing the 2-stopper as well. Raikkonen and Bottas, Verstappen, Alonso, Felipe Nasr for Sauber, and Jensen Button round out the top 10. Our teammate Magnussen gets P12, good result for Rio Haryanto as well, but the retirees Hamilton and Perez and Vettel, the race after winning the championship, only 20th and last of the finishers. Shout out as well to Felipe Nasr, who scores his first points and Sauber's first points of the season, crucially too. They stay last in the Constructors' Championship, but at least it's their first points of the season. Not too much change in terms of the top 5 in the Drivers' Championship, but after our win, unsurprisingly, we do move up into P6, above Kimi Raikkonen, who looked as if he would win it himself at one point. Kvyat moves above Perez, after that podium for him, and we've got Fernando Alonso moving up above Carlos Sainz as well. The Constructors' Championship is an interesting read as well. We move up in terms of the Constructors' Championship, of course, after that win. Pretty disappointing Grand Prix, really, relatively speaking, for McLaren, despite getting that double point scoring finish. Good weekend for Force India, despite the retirement for Perez as well, as Nico Hülkenberg gets a top 5 finish for the first time in the season after a pretty mediocre campaign so far for the German. But what a Grand Prix, what a way to win our first GP of this season and grab Renault's first win since returning to the sport. We knew it would be a difficult journey at the start of the season, but my word, that was a very treacherous Grand Prix, set up by a good qualifying, but absolutely all over the place. The pendulum constantly swinging between different drivers in terms of favouring who would actually win that Grand Prix, but in the end, we come out on top. If you have enjoyed that video, then of course, make sure to smash the likes button, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and comment about enjoying the video if you enjoyed it that much. But it has been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. We are Grand Prix winners in 2016. Have a great day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.
I wanna say yes, yes. Hope I see you next time. Said I want to be